Hello and good morning, everybody. It's me, Nick, and in today's philosophical reflection, I would like to analyze with you a sentence that really struck me a few days ago from the philosopher Zizek, which that said, "The disappearance of desire coincides with the desire to disappear." And I strongly relate to that, and I would like in this video to reflect with you on what it probably Zizek meant by desire, what it means to have desire in life, and what it does not, and what is not desire, and why it coincides with the desire to disappear, right? So when we lose that desire, we want it to disappear as a consequence. And so I would like to start with what I mean by what I think he meant by desire and what I mean by desire. What I mean by desire is a like is a sense of potential, which is an idea of from the philosopher Kierkegaard that said that um, like he wished for nothing. He doesn't wish for wealth or anything like that, but for to keep cultivating his desire, his sense of potential. And this is what I think is desire about, is like something that you do for the sake of doing it that makes you access life. So it's like a fantasy framework, if you want, to access life in a way, which, in other words, is a creative project. So you do a creative project for the sake of it, right? To serve others, even. And when you have this project in your mind, you start to filter reality um, through the lens of that project. And that makes you feel a kid again. It makes you feel childish. It makes you feel curious about the world and life. And it makes you wake up in the morning and and be curious about what will happen today. And I would like to quote Lawrence Yeo, which is the author of the brilliant blog More to That and the author of The Inner Compass, his book, and in which he said that, let me find it here. He said, if you feel like you're making progresses as a birds are singing, if you feel like you're making progresses as a human being through your art, you're an artist. And this is what I mean by that. You don't need necessarily to be an artist in this, like a kind of big word, but the point is to try to make progress as a human, a sense of potential. But however, what we I mean, the same can be said for scientists, teachers, or sport people, or whatever. But the important thing is that it has to be made for its own sake. It doesn't have, like, what is not desire in the pure sense is mistakenly what we mistaken desire from making it in life, having a career, having a fancy car, or achieve X, Y, and Z, and thinking that once we have achieved X, we will finally be happy. That is delusional, and it will make is called arrival fallacy, and it does not exist. And especially is conditioned from others, and is not really our own thing. It's just that we never question it, and so we just copy and paste what other people think and do. And so I give an example of that, that I watched recently a Netflix documentary that it blew my mind. It was really, really good. It's called My Octopus Teacher, if I'm not wrong. And it's basically the story of this South African guy, which had the dream of becoming a filmmaker. And he eventually he burned out, and he keep like he lose any kind of desire for his art and for filmmaking, and so he step away from it. And eventually what he does is like one day he went for a dive in the ocean, and he found this octopus there. And he for the first time he slows down and observe and look around and ask himself question, and he's curious again about the world. And he started to look at this incredible animal doing behave like in a way he never expected. And so he is curious about it and decided to take as a kind of project of sorts, um, mm, a commitment to dive every day in the ocean and uh, go on the same spot, look for the animal and film it, right? And what is marvelous about these stories that eventually they become friends. And I know it sounds weird, but you should watch the documentary. Is absolutely brilliant. But of course, this makes this story special. But what I deem really special is the ability of this guy to simply do something that has no immediate reward to it. Like society doesn't, like our society is a society of as Byung Jong Han said in his book Vita Contemplativa, is um, a compulsive of production. We live in a society that is compulsively productive, and so everything has to be made in order to something else. Everything has to be made for a reason, for a purpose. Okay, and that's why we mistake that with desire in the pure sense, having a inner project, what Marcel Proust called the inner book. Everyone has an inner book, and what we have to do is going around life and take notes and add that as material for our inner book, even though like you would maybe would never make anything of it, but it's just a beautiful reminder of just feeling alive, feeling alive through a project that makes us child again, curious again. And so um every time we like we get trapped into a spiral of sorts. And I think that this is especially true when we pursue something that has been conditioned. So a sort what we think is our desire, our um, call, if you want, and we we fail to realize that we never questioned it in the first place, and we just copy and paste what we saw is prestigious or what we admire from others. And this spiral can explain what Zizek meant by the disappearance of desire coincides with the desire to disappear, which is like when we realize that whatever we spend years pursuing, a career, or becoming rich, or whatever society accept and deem worth doing, we understand the futility of it, and then we are just lost. We're lost. We don't understand what to do with our lives, and we feel like we lost time for nothing. And you can go on and watch and read whatever biography of whatever important or like famous um, person you admire, and you will realize that they understood that, and they usually understood it too late. And so the spiral in which we, after that, after this realization, we are lost. And what we do is distract ourselves, is trying not to think, is, as I said in a previous video, the desire to dissipate. And we wanted to dissipate, to s- kind of stop existing for a moment. And how we do that is, you guess it right, through social media, mindless consumption of hollow stimuli that are that serve no other purpose but filling the holes and distract ourselves and just keep ourselves going, because we have no idea of where or how to get out of this cycle. And it reminds me of a quote from Viktor Frankl, which survived the Holocaust, that said that um, when a person cannot find a deep sense of meaning, they distract themselves with pleasure. And this is exactly it. Is exactly what we do. It's like when we don't know what to do with our lives, when we cannot align what we have been taught to aspire to with what we want to do, what we want to spend our life pursuing, there is a dissonance. And so this causes tension, and we burn out. Usually we don't want to pursue that career anymore, that goal anymore, but at the same time we have no other option, and so we keep going by distracting ourselves with technology, social media, um, quick dopamine and gratification, um, instant gratification, which is the desire to disappear, is what Zizek meant by the desire to disappear. And is a kind of a sort of, pass me the terms, like a suicide of the mind. And what I reflect on, and what I would like to argue in this video, is that there is a kind of um, there is a way to escape this trap and to find something meaningful to do, that it doesn't have necessary to have a purpose. Meaning and purpose are two different things, but maybe this I will discuss this in another video. It's just a seed or an idea that I have in my mind. I have to research more. Anyways, um, we pursue the desire to disappear, but the way to get out of this spiral is, first of all, questioning why we were doing something in the first place. And as Zizek itself said, the one of the way to do that, probably the only way, is to do nothing, to accept and do nothing, so that we can start to do something. And do nothing is means like do something that is not yet valued by the current ideology. Okay, that doesn't sound right to them, to the to others. something that is even hard to explain to your friends, you know. Like imagine the guy I told you before in the documentary, like imagine that guy going to his friends and say like, oh yeah, like I spent 25 years trying to be a filmmaker, and all of a sudden I quit to spend 1 full year dive into the ocean every day and go there and just taking picture and videos of an octopus. Like people, like they would not even understand, right? But that was life changing for him. It was his project. It was his thing, his sense. He could feel like a sense of potential. He could feel like he was making progress as a human being because he learned from the octopus. He learned through the project, which make him feel like he's making progress, and he became a better father, a more present person, and so on and so forth. But and this is what being an artist is, uh, you know. And so um, when we question that, and when we start to do something for its own sake, and I like to call this doing sandcastle with our lives, which I will make a video about it as well. um, we start to relish life again, feel appetite for life again. We wake up in the morning and like, oh, I have my little project and I can't wait to go out and see what life throws at me. And this is what happened to me with this kind of video, with these longhand kind of reflections that will go nowhere, and and probably nobody will see. But I feel like it gives me, give me meaning. It keeps me going to read and share with others what I read and what I learn, so that I can help a younger version of myself, ideally, that is watching mindlessly video on YouTube, to understand this concept, like, and make him question even my words, um, and maybe, you know, write write me a comment down below and just, you know, contribute to the discussion. And this is what keep me going, which is, it brings me to kind of the last point, which is that serving others is also a part of it. Doing sandcastle with our lives is also like serving others for the sake of it, without any kind of other second goal in mind. And I watched recently the documentary about Jeffrey Epstein, and there is a passage, an interview with one of the former victim, which the name is Maria Farmer. There was a painter, an artist, and she of course was a victim of Epstein, and she, after that, after years and years of trying to fight um, against this monster, but justice were not following up, she decided to quit painting. And then she woke up again, in a way, spiritually, and she decided to, she came in contact with other victims, and this inspired her to paint again some portraits of the victims, some beautiful paintings. And she said in the video, I mean in the documentary, it empowered me to give them strength. And this is exactly what art is all about. This is exactly how to regain control of our desire, of our sense of potential, and not only don't want to disappear, but want to live. It's a kind of if the desire to disappear is a suicide of the mind, when we just anesthetize ourselves with hollow stimuli, just to don't think that about the meaningless of our existence, right? um this is a kind of renaissance of the mind. It's a kind of, it's a kind of rebirth, um or at least it was for me. And I don't know if Zizek meant exactly this, but this is what uh, the kind of reflection um, I made out of this quote. And so, pursuing a creative project for its own sake is like a, is like a being child again, be curious again, and is the is an awakening of sorts. And so, what I what I would like to conclude with this video is, question whatever you're pursuing. Question it. Be careful that it's not conditioned by others. Do something for its own sake. Make sandcastles with your life and feel alive. Even though like a wave will just washing it out, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The point is that you do it. It doesn't have to be to have an aim, to be productive, efficient, or any sort of this stuff. And so that you will not lose your desire and you will not desire to disappear. I hope this video was of use to you and make you think and ask yourself questions as it was for me. And I see you next week. Thank you for watching.